Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're jumping into April 1865, Washington, D.C. Picture this. A city just giddy with victory.
Absolutely giddy. Lee had surrendered. The war felt over.
But underneath all that celebrating, you still got a city marked by war, right? Forts everywhere, public buildings, even the Capitol used as makeshift hospital.
Exactly. And that sets up this core tension. You have Lincoln thinking about malice toward none with charity for all, aiming for reconciliation.
And then you have John Wilkes Booth just boiling with this venomous rage against the Union's success.
Yeah, and it's crucial to get how fragile the nation felt right then. The war had literally changed the grammar, from the United States are to the United States is.
Single entity.
Right, but a perilously fragile one. April 1865 was just a whirlwind, joy on the surface, but massive unresolved problems underneath. Like, what happens to 4 million newly freed people?
That's huge.
So our mission here is to unpack how Lincoln's assassination wasn't just an event, it was this thunderclap. It just ripped away that illusion of peace.
And Booth is right at the center of that storm. He wasn't just some actor, was he?
Oh, no. He was like theatrical royalty. A genuine superstar. Earned the equivalent of, over $700,000 today?
Wow. So his fame was useful.
Absolutely. It was his weapon. His camouflage gave him access everywhere. Plus, he was apparently the handsomest man in America, very athletic on stage.
But behind the curtain.
Behind that, you find this toxic brew, intense Confederate nationalism mixed with really virulent white supremacy. He honestly saw Lincoln as a tyrant.
And that tied into his family somehow.
Yeah, they had this tradition naming sons after famous tyrannicides like Brutus. Booth loved playing Brutus. It fed this fanaticism. He even tried kidnapping Lincoln back in March.
Right, the March 17th plot that failed.
Exactly.
So then Lee surrenders on April 9th. That must have changed everything for Booth. The kidnapping plan is suddenly pointless.
Completely pointless. It pushes him towards desperation. And the real trigger, the thing that flipped the switch to assassination, came just 2 days later.
What happened?
Lincoln gave a speech, April 11th. And in it, he publicly supported giving the vote to some black men, specifically the very intelligent, and on those who serve our cause as soldiers.
Okay.
Booth was apparently in the crowd. He reacted furiously. He said, "That means nigger citizenship. Now, by God, I'll put him through. That is the last speech he will ever make."
Chilling. So right then, the plan shifts.
Instantly. From kidnapping to a coordinated assassination plot.
Not just Lincoln, right?
Yep.
This was bigger.
Much bigger. The new plan was audacious.
Yeah.
Kill Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Secretary of State William Seward, all at the same time.
A decapitation strike, basically.
Pretty much. And Booth got meticulous at Ford's Theater. Drilled a peephole into the president's box, figured out how to jam the door with a wooden bar.
But things could have gone differently.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating. Lincoln's main bodyguard wasn't there. The replacement, a guy named John Parker, actually left his post during the play.
He left?
Yeah, apparently went to a nearby tavern, and General Grant and his wife were supposed to be with the Lincolns, but they declined the invitation last minute.
Wow. So many small things.
Exactly. History turning on these tiny hinges of, human error and just sheer chance.
So the attack happens. April 14th, shortly after 10 p.m., Booth gets into the box.
Fires the single shot into the back of Lincoln's head. Major Rathbone, who is in the box with his fiancée Clara Harris, tries to stop him.
There's a struggle.
Right. Booth slashes Rathbone badly with a knife, then makes this incredibly dramatic leap from the box onto the stage.
And breaks his leg.
Snaps his fibula, yeah. But even then, fueled by adrenaline, he shouts, "Sic semper tyrannis!"
Yeah.
Thus, always to tyrants, and escapes out the back.
While that's happening at Ford's.
Lewis Powell attacks Secretary Seward at his home. It was brutal. A knife attack. Seward was already laid up from a carriage accident.
And that actually saved him.
Miraculously, yes. He was wearing this metal and gutta-percha surgical splint around his jaw and neck. It deflected some of the worst blows.
Incredible. And the third target, Vice President Johnson.
George Atzerodt was assigned to kill Johnson, but he basically lost his nerve, got drunk, and never even made the attempt.
So only Booth succeeded.
Yes. It really shows how close they came to an even greater catastrophe, but individual weakness, maybe just fate, intervened.
The immediate aftermath must have been chaos. Who takes charge?
Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, nicknamed Mars for a reason, he was incredibly efficient, took control immediately.
And launched the manhunt.
One of the biggest in American history. They used everything. I had telegraphs, railroads, even photographs on wanted posters, which was pretty cutting edge, and a huge reward, $100,000.
That's serious money.
Very serious. Booth was eventually cornered and killed 12 days later.
And the others involved.
They were tried by a military tribunal, which itself was controversial. Some saw it as necessary for swift justice, others as, well, political theater to sort of cauterize this massive national wound.
And Mary Surratt.
Right. She owned the boarding house where conspirators met, became the first woman executed by the federal government. There were, and still are, serious doubts about how much she actually knew or participated.
It really leads you to that huge what if, doesn't it? What if Lincoln had lived his plan for Reconstruction?
His 10% plan. Yeah, it was relatively lenient, aimed at getting Southern states back into the Union quickly. Only 10% of voters needed to pledge loyalty.
Which was very different from what some others in Congress wanted.
Very different. The radical Republicans wanted much stricter terms, more protections for freedmen, fundamental changes to Southern society.
And Lincoln's death changes that whole dynamic.
Completely. It elevates Andrew Johnson to the presidency, and Johnson was... well, he was stubborn, deeply racist, and sympathetic to the old Southern power structure.
Those as acts.
Like pardoning thousands of former Confederates, vetoing civil rights bills, letting Southern states pass restrictive black codes. It absolutely enraged Congress. It leads directly to radical Reconstruction. Congress basically takes over, overrides Johnson's vetoes, imposes military rule on the South, and pushes through the 14th and 15th Amendments.
Guaranteeing citizenship and black male suffrage.
Exactly. But it also fuels this intense, violent backlash in the South, the rise of groups like the Ku Klux Klan, and there's a personal tragedy, too, with Major Rathbone and Claire Harris. Their lives were haunted by that night. He eventually killed her years later in a fit of madness, a final, awful ripple effect.
So connecting the dots, what's the ultimate irony here, this sort of assassin's paradox?
It's profound, really. Booth acted out of this fanatical desire to preserve white supremacy and the old Southern order, but his bullet achieved the exact opposite.
How so?
He killed the one leader, Lincoln, who was maybe moderate enough and politically stilled enough to potentially guide a gentler Reconstruction, perhaps protecting the South from the harshest measures while still easing the transition. Instead, he empowers the radical Republicans. His action directly leads to the constitutional amendments and federal actions promoting black civil rights that he desperately wanted to prevent. Booth, in trying to save his vision of the South, struck the most destructive blow imaginable against it.
So, thinking about this today, it's clear the assassination wasn't just one horrific act. It was a catalyst, right?
Yeah.
It fundamentally changed the path of the country.
Absolutely. It reshaped America for generations. It's a stark lesson in how history can turn on a dime and how actions, especially violent, fanatical ones, can have consequences wildly different from what the actor intended.
Makes you think, doesn't it? How even in moments that feel like total triumph, like that giddy victory in April 65, there can be these deep, volatile fault lines just beneath the surface. And sometimes, all it takes is one thunderclap to expose them all, leaving everyone to deal with the fallout for decades to come.